There's really no better way to spend a hot summer night than relaxing in the great outdoors, looking up into a clear night sky. Without light pollution and interference from man-made nuisances like cities, it's not just a beautiful sight that unfolds above us, but it's pretty incredible, too. According to Universe Today, anyone looking up at the night sky can, without the help of binoculars or a telescope, see things that are as far as 2.6 million light years away. Not only is that an almost unthinkable distance, Monash University astronomy professor Michael J.I. Brown points out that we're also looking back into the past. Light takes a while to travel to us, after all, so when we look up into the sky, we're not seeing things as they are, but as they were. That means we're seeing Andromeda as it was 2.6 million years ago, and that's some mind-bending stuff. That night sky might look peaceful and a little vanilla, but all of those stars and planets have their own thing going on. And some of them? What's going on in their atmosphere and on their surface is the stuff not of a relaxing evening stargazing, but of toxic atmospheres, impossible to imagine heat, and ice that burns. That's out there, too. Hello and welcome to KYC News. Please don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon. Venus. It turns out that one of the most terrifying planets astronomers have discovered is right here in our own solar system, and that's Venus. It might be named for the Roman goddess of love, but it's anything but lovely. There's a lot going on here, too, so let's hit the main talking points, starting with the fact that it's the hottest planet in the solar system. Venus has temperatures that regularly hit up to 870 degrees Fahrenheit, and while that's amateur hour compared to some other planets, it's enough to make some weird stuff happen. The planet's atmosphere is so dense it wouldn't be wrong to think of it as an entirely separate entity, particularly because it rotates at about 60 times the speed of the planet. That, says space, is what causes the weird vortex storm that's roughly the same size as Europe and has been raging over the South Pole for who knows how long. And storms aren't pleasant. The rains aren't water, they're sulfuric acid, as Gizmodo notes. There's also somewhere around 1,600 volcanoes scattered across the planet, and then there's the very uncomfortable fact that a year passes faster than a single day. Winds reach speeds of up to 450 miles per hour, and oh, they're also electrified. The electric field surrounding the planet is so strong that it's thought to be what causes these winds, which are described as less like Earth's winds and more like, well, imagine solar flares combined with lightning. The ogles. There's no denying that seeing everyone's favorite rebels fighting the bitter cold puts the ice planet Hoth in The Empire Strikes Back up there on the list of sci-fi planets that no one ever says they want to visit. But here's the thing, there's a real-world version of Hoth that's even more terrifying. NASA knows, says researchers from Jet Propulsion Laboratory, via CNN, because Hoth could at least sustain life. As unpleasant as conditions were, they were livable. The conditions on the planet designated as OGLE 2016 BLG 1195 LB are not so much. Let's put it this way, liquid nitrogen, says the BBC, boils at minus 321 degrees Fahrenheit. If someone were to be dumb enough to, say, stick a hand in liquid nitrogen, it would do pretty much what it does in the movies, which is to freeze solid and snap off. OGLE 2016 BLG 1195 LB is even colder than that, with an average temperature of around minus 400 degrees Fahrenheit. The OGLE, which NASA says stands for the Optical Gravitational Lensing Equipment, telescopes have discovered other terrifyingly cold planets as well. And the one called OGLE 2005 BLG 390 LB? The European Southern Observatory calls it more Earth-like than any other planet found so far, but there's a major catch. The surface averages around minus 360 degrees Fahrenheit. Researchers suspect that it has a surface like Earth, but that it's buried under all kinds of frozen misery. Suddenly, Hoth doesn't look so bad. Trace 2b. Afraid of the dark? Make it a point to never, ever go to the Jupiter-sized planet called Trace 2b. According to the Harvard Gazette, researchers aren't sure what's going on with this particular planet, but they do know that it reflects less than 1% of the light that hits it. That makes looking at the planet kind of like looking at a wall painted with matte black paints, and that's just weird, especially considering that it's so hot, it's too hot for cloud cover. And here's the thing, even though the atmosphere is filled with chemicals, like titanium oxide in a gas form, that absorb the light, it's not enough to actually explain what's going on here. The authors of a study on the planet say, via space, that one of the likely explanations is a chemical that lowly Earth science doesn't know anything about. Princeton University's David Spiegel explains, it's not clear what is responsible for making this planet so extraordinarily dark. However, it's not completely pitch black. It's so hot that it emits a faint red glow, much like a burning ember or the coils on an electric stove. Wait, what? As if the sort of Satan's soul color scheme wasn't eerie enough, the planet is also insanely hot. Temperatures average somewhere upwards of 1,800 degrees Fahrenheit, which finishes off the whole fire and brimstone sort of look. KELT-9b. There are a few things about KELT-9b that should sound familiar to Earthlings. It has 4 seasons, for example, and that's nice. What's not nice is that those 4 seasons are essentially 2 summers and 2 winters, and they are about 9 hours long each. That's because the planet is so close to what Forbes calls the host star that a year is only about 36 hours long. Oh, and that sun bombards the planet with 44,000 times the solar energy that Earth's sun gives it, and it's about 56% hotter than the sun. That all makes for a terrifying amount of heat. During the hottest hours, the planet's temperature hits up to 7,800 degrees Fahrenheit, and that means the atmosphere is caught in this vicious cycle of destruction. Those hottest temperatures are enough to literally tear molecules apart. According to popular mechanics, atoms like hydrogen form during the cooler seasons, then get superheated just a few hours later to be shredded like pulled pork. They'll reform later, and then the whole cycle starts over again. Scientists feel fairly safe in saying that there's no chance life, of any kind, can exist there, and even if it did, it won't be existing for long. Relatively speaking, of course. The host star, KELT-9, is kicking off so much radiation that there's a good chance it's going to eventually vaporize little KELT-9b. The planets of AU microscopii. Most sci-fi movies and television shows have a scene that features characters trying to navigate a ship through an asteroid field, and there's a good reason for that. It's the kind of terrifying that makes your stomach seize up, even if you're sitting safely on the couch with a bag of Cheetos. Don't like all those close calls and near misses? Don't put the system of AU microscopii on any bucket lists. AU microscopii is a baby red dwarf star, and as far as the universe goes, it's a pretty close neighbor to Earth at only about 32 light-years away. Sky and Telescope says that the cool thing about the star is that it's surrounded by a debris field, and, naturally, astronomers have wanted to try to figure out just what caused this field of orbiting dust bunnies. Along the way, they discovered that the baby star already has 2 planets orbiting it, inside the debris field. As if that isn't bad enough, NASA describes the sun as consistently throwing vicious temper tantrums, bombarding the planets with flares of radiation and X-rays. At least the debris field is visible, so that's a plus. Still, who would have thought that an asteroid belt would be the least frightening thing a planet needed to face in a day? Thanks for watching, and see you on next video.